It started out in the early 60s as an innovative addiction recovery program. But by the time it disbanded, nearly 30 years later, the group known as Synanon devolved into a violent cult, accused of mental, emotional, and physical abuse, orchestrated by founder Charles Dietrich.
It's terrible. People suffered. People were hurt. And he did bring Synanon down around him.
HBO's new docuseries, The Synanon Fix, explores the group's tragic fall from grace. Director and executive producer Rory Kennedy joins me now. Rory, thanks for being with us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
So what drew you to this remarkable story?
Well, so Synanon was founded in Santa Monica here in California, where I now live, in 1958, and had a fascinating start. It was founded really as the first drug treatment program in the United States. At that time, there were a lot of heroin addicts in the streets of California as well as throughout the United States. And it was really becoming an epidemic, but there was no place for them to go. And there was really no sense of a solution for them. They either went to mental health hospitals or to prison, or they died. And Chuck Dietrich, who was the founder of Synanon, came from AA. He was an alcoholic, and he was going to AA meetings for many years. And he was getting frustrated with AA meetings because he didn't feel like people were totally genuine when they would tell their stories. And he wanted to challenge them on their stories. So he started having these AA meetings in his storefront on Ocean Park in Santa Monica, and drug addicts started coming in. And there were meetings where you could confront people and challenge them and yell at them and scream and do whatever you wanted. You couldn't be violent, but you could yell and scream. And the heroin addicts loved it. And they kept coming back. And then they said, can we stay here? And he said, well, all you guys know how to do is hustle for drugs. So go hustle for some beds and some food. And he had this storefront, and people stayed there on couches. And then they moved to a facility called the Armory on the PCH, and ultimately into what is now a 5-star hotel called the Del Mar on the beachfront in Santa Monica. And it was really effective, and it was pioneering in its time. And so kind of looking at this facility that had this background that really, all of the drug treatment programs, most of the drug treatment programs we know today, like Phoenix House and others, came from Synanon, right? So it has a very powerful, long-lasting legacy. But looking at this start of the organization and then how it evolved to what many consider to be a cult is a fascinating story.
So when I watched your documentary, I think that was the thing that most struck me, was most of these cults seem to start out bad and get worse. This one, that's not the story. It seems to have started, at least with really good intentions. It really seems to have helped a lot of people in a profound way. And then something changed. If you were to put your finger on it, what is it that you think changed so dramatically that it ended up in the place where it did?
Yeah. It's hard to say that there was one moment where things changed. I mean, there were certainly kind of significant shifts, but I would say in the beginning there were really these two principles or tenets on which Synanon was founded, and one was no drugs and alcohol, and the other was no violence. And by the end, they had bought more firearms than anybody in the history of California, and they had an open bar in the facility, right? So how did they get from one extreme to the other extreme? I think it comes down to Chuck Dietrich, who was a very charismatic leader and really drew people to follow him. It went from a place where there were not that many rules other than those two rules to a place where they started mandating behavior. And first it was innocuous. It was, no sugar, and everybody should exercise. And then they started, people started shaving their heads, and then everybody had to shave their heads. And then, it got increasingly extreme where the people were having forced abortions and forced vasectomies. And, there was swapping partners. And there was, and I think a lot of the people who questioned Synanon left Synanon as these mandates became increasingly extreme. And the people who stayed didn't really have it in them to stand up to Chuck, who increasingly got treated like a god.
So I thought sort of one of the most striking things about the documentary was the extent you were able to get Chuck Diedrich's daughter to speak about what happened. What's that like, getting a daughter to talk about her father in a way that, it certainly by the end is not in the least flattering?
Well, JD is a remarkable woman. She was very resistant and adamant from the beginning. I started talking to JD probably 4.5 years ago about this project. And she was very clear that she did not want to participate in the film as an interview. And we were talking to her really about getting the archive from Synanon, which also there was a lot of resistance in sharing the archive from Synanon. And to her credit, I think that really that resistance was based on wanting to protect people who had gone to Synanon and a feeling of responsibility and knowing that a lot of people felt like they had been abused and had bad experiences at Synanon, and she didn't want to make that any worse for anybody. And at the same time, I think we argued that this film could help people really understand Synanon, and having that archive and allowing people to kind of really be immersed in Synanon. And so it really feels like it's a telling from the inside out. We don't have a narrator in the series. It's really exclusively told from the perspective of the people who lived through Synanon and were on the front lines of Synanon. And getting that archive in there was really important. Ultimately, she agreed, and the Synanon Trust agreed to give us that archive. And so there's a lot of footage in here, and photos and audio that's never been seen or heard before. And I think in that process, JD, the daughter, felt like, if everybody else was sharing their stories, that it was important for her to put herself out there as well, even though she didn't want to. She genuinely, I don't think, wanted to, but she felt like she needed to. And I do think her perspective is so important in helping people understand what Synanon was, what it was trying to do, all the good that it did. And then also, she's very honest and transparent about what the cost was of Synanon, and the impact, often in a very negative way, it had on people's lives.
So it seems like we talk about cults sort of more and more nowadays. I often hear CrossFit described as a cult. You'll see political opponents of Donald Trump say that the MAGA movement is a cult. Is there something you take away from this that you could learn about cults that sort of informs the way we talk about it now?
Well, I do think that there is an increased interest in cults, both people participating in cults. I've read that there are like 10,000 cults in the United States right now. It's a lot of cults. And obviously there's more, there's more series that we're watching that have to do with cults. I think from my understanding of cults that, cults seem to emerge and people's interest in them are heightened when there are forces in society that make people feel like there's unrest or that they're ungrounded, and that there's disruption. And I think with everything going on today and the divisiveness that we're seeing in our political landscape with, the threat and the worries regarding AI, the sense that the climate change is upon us and is wreaking havoc, and kind of what's happening with our world leaders and Putin. I think that people feel unsettled. And in moments like this, you look at alternative leadership models. So I do think understanding this history of Synanon, which takes place largely over 20 years, 25 years, over the course of 4 hours, gives you an insight into what draws people to cults, I think. And the other thing that Chuck's daughter Jadie says, who we talked about, that I think is quite insightful in terms of why people were drawn to Synanon and why they stayed despite everything that was happening, is, she said, people are crushingly lonely. And I think to go into this world where you're surrounded by people, it's very vibrant, you're having these games, you're talking about your emotions, you're working through issues, you don't really have to worry about your food or a job, everything's, or your housing, it's all taken care of. Insurance, they have doctors coming to Synanon, taking care of people. They had cars, they had motorcycles. Ultimately, they had airplanes and, boats. But things were taken care of for you. And then you had this instant community of really close, what became to people, they talk about it as family and a real deep sense of friendship.
So, Rory, your last documentary was on the fall of Boeing, and today the CEO of Boeing announced that he would be stepping down at the end of this year. I have to ask then, so what do you think of what's happening at Boeing now, and what should they do to rescue themselves from this flat spin?
Yeah, I'm glad that David Calhoun is moving out, and some of the other leadership is as well. I think that's a long time coming, frankly. I do have concerns with the person, Stephanie Pope, who I've heard of is going to be taking over in David Calhoun's place, at least for the time being. Because I think largely her background is in finance and money. And I think that the thing that Boeing needs more than anything is to focus on excellence, focus on making fantastic airplanes that are safe. And I think as long as Boeing continues to focus on money and finances and the bottom line. And what we document in Downfall is they did that at the expense of human lives. 346 people died in those two 737 MAX crashes. And I think that, they really need somebody who is at the top of Boeing, who is an engineer, who has a background in safety, who has a commitment to excellence, and is not, going to be trained in a kind of GE model of business, which is we are going to just look at our quarterly profits, and that's going to be our North Star. And I think until they shift that, and change the culture, I don't have a lot of faith when their CEOs continue to rotate, new ones come in, they tell us, they go around on the talk shows and say, we're committed to safety. I don't buy it.
Well, Rory Kennedy, on that note, thanks so much for joining us today.